In today's tutorial, I'm gonna be showing you how to make this gorgeous sweater for kids. Okay, so during this tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to make this neck cut. It's a round neck cut, and how to make the ribbing as well. Look how gorgeous this ribbing is. Ribbing for the cuffs, I'm gonna be showing you how to make the cuffs a little smaller than the size of the sleeve. And as well, I'm gonna be showing you the sizes that you need, the measurements that you're gonna need to make this sweater for the right size for your child, okay? This is one afternoon pattern, like you don't need much time to do it, so really fast making. And I'm going to be using my Centro 40 and my Centro 48. But if you only have the 48, you can make the sleeves as a panel and then seam them on the bottom to make them as a tube. So you can use only a Centro 48 if that's what you have, okay? I'm going to be using, and this is what's great about this pattern, I'm going to be using only 2 skeins of yarn to make this sweater. It's like $6 sweater, seriously. I paid, this is a gorgeous, actually a gorgeous worsted acrylic yarn. It's really soft. So if you can find, just use the yarn you prefer. If you prefer double knit, you can use double knit yarn as well. But I'm gonna be using only 2 skeins of this yarn here. For size number 10, I'm making 8 to 10 years old today. But in the pattern I'm gonna leave down the description below, you guys can access all the way from 4 to 10 years old, all calculated for you guys, and you help me a lot as well if you purchase one of my patterns, just to help my business, because I make all these tutorials for free for you guys. So I think that's what we need to know about it. I'm gonna first show you how to calculate the sizes and the size of the sleeves, and then after that we're going to the body part of this sweater. So let me know, guys, if you enjoyed this tutorial on the way, and if you have any questions about it that you want to know, that you didn't understand properly, let me know down in the comments below. And so let's get started, guys, and I'm gonna be showing you how the whole process of how to make this beautiful sweater on your Centro knitting machine. So to start this sweater project, the first thing I'm going to be doing is making one of the sleeves, okay? The reason why I make one of the sleeves also is because I normally make them in a tube, and then this way I know how many stitches I'm going to need for the body of the sweater, because then I can calculate using this part here. You can either like grab this part here and just place on top of your boy or girl sweater and see how many of these you need to get the width that you want and also the length that you want, okay? So that's an easy way to calculate. Just place this part right on top of the sweater of your kid and see how many extra rows you need for the length and how many extra stitches you need for the width. That's the reason why I make the sleeves first. So with this gauge calculator here, and I like to work with centimeter because most of this double knit yarn, and this is a worsted yarn actually, but most of them, they have 20 rows, as you can see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 rows of 2 stitches each row. So each centimeter here, I have 2 rows, okay? So if you measure from your kid's wrist all the way to the underarm, you're gonna see how many centimeters you have there, and then you just multiply by 2 to know how many centimeters you need for, how many rows you need for the full sleeve, okay? You can remove around 2 centimeters here that we are going to have for the ribbing. And then you can just calculate the remaining number of centimeters you have by 2 to see how many rows you're gonna need for each size, okay? So let's get started making this sleeve first. And this pattern can be used for either boys or girls, okay? So what knitting machine should you use for each age? Well, I'm using for this size 8 to 10. You can use all the way to 12 years old. From 8 to 12 years old, you can use the Centro 40. If you don't have the Centro 40, you can make a panel with 40 stitches on your Centro 48 or on your Adi 46 as well, okay? So I'm casting on all the stitches and I'm using the tube mold of my Centro 40 knitting machine. I'm going to make 4 rows with the waste yarn in a contrasting color so it's easier to bind off the stitches later. Now I'm going to start with the white and I'm going to leave a little bit of a tail to seam the sleeve to the body later. It's not much, just a little bit, around a meter or something. And then now I'm going to make a third of the stitches in this first part and then a third of the stitches here and a third of the stitches here if you are any other size or any other length of sleeve, okay? So I calculated 70 rows here for the full tube, so if you are making a solid color, just make 70 rows. But because I'm making these stripes, I'm making a third of the number of rows to each one of the colors. I'm going to start with 23 rows and then 24 rows and then 23 again, okay? 23 rows with my white color, okay? So I'm going to add the color here, put the other color there in the middle because I'm not going to be working with it for 2 rows, and then I'm going to make 2 rows with this color here. So once I made 2 rows, I'm going to remove here, put this one back, in front of the first needle. Just make sure that last needle will grab the yarn, and then I'm going to work now 2 rows with the white. Now I'm going to remove again, make sure it goes inside the last needle, and put in front of this first needle and inside here. Make sure you pull the last stitch tight. So I'm going to be swapping the colors 12 times for 24 rows, and then I'm going to make an extra 23 rows with this color here. And that's all it's gonna be, so I'll come back with you to show you how to cast off the stitches, and then we're going to then make the front panel of this sweater. And then after you made your 23 rows, just remove the yarn, place it inside, and let's make a full row without the yarn. Leave this yarn attached because straight away we are going to make our ribbing on the bottom. Just make sure you stretch it a lot so all the stitches go into place. And now I'm going to quickly show you how to make the ribbing on this side here. So this is the reason why I started with the white color, so I could have easily removed the stitches on the other side to make the ribbing for the sleeves. I'm making the ribbing with crochet, but you can also grab the live stitches and just use a circular knitting needle to make to knit if you want, okay? And so what I'm going to do here, I'm going to grab the stitches this way every time, so from the front here, so the loop is not twisted. And I'm going to just single crochet. So in order to decrease stitches, because you always want the cuff to be half of the size most of the time, I'm going to grab 2 loops together. So this first loop, this second loop I have to remake it. Remember, before I lost it, I dropped. So I'm just going to remake with this loop here right now. And so I have the 2 now on my needle, on my hook, and I'm going to make these 3 loops together. This way I'm going to be, because I'm making these 2 stitches together, I'm going to be decreasing 1. And then now I'm just gonna finish this one normally. And then for the next one, I'm going to grab 1 and 2 again and make them all together. So I'm going to be just making this around for the cuff. This way I'm going to have half of the stitches to finish my cuff. Okay, so I'm left with only 1 loop here, and now I'm going through this first stitch here. Try to put the hook through this first stitch, pull it, and then I'm going to chain 2, and I'm going to double crochet 1 double crochet in each stitch that I have underneath each one of these stitches here. They are single crochets, and I'm making now double crochets. So just repeat a double crochet row all around it, and then I'm going to make a little ribbing stitch with front post stitches, okay? Now once you made the last stitch, we're gonna put this hook through the second chain on the beginning there. Oops. And pull it, making a slip stitch, and then chain 2, and then on the very next stitch we're gonna put it underneath the paw and just double crochet. That's a front post double crochet. And then we're going to double crochet 2, and then front post again. Double crochet 2, front post again, and then repeat around. So repeat this work around for 2 rows, and then on the second row we're gonna have the front post right on top of the front post you had on this row, and then you can cut the yarn and this cuff's ready. Now finish in this second chain here with a slip stitch. Cut the yarn, and then our second slip's ready. Now if you had to make this, if you want to make this with knitting stitches, you can use the 1x1 ribbing. You can do the same that I did here. Every second stitch you knit two together, and the circular needle size would be 4.5 to 5 millimeters, okay? And that very short circular knitting machine, or if you want the interchangeable ones that come in a package, you can use that too. That's very helpful. Okay, so this is my ribbing, and now I'm gonna show you quickly the size this has. My length, my total length is 15 inches or 38 centimeters, and the width of this it's 13.5 centimeters or 5 inches, 5.5 inches, okay, wide. So you know, for your kid, if you want to make it smaller or bigger. Now the next step, I'm gonna leave it aside, and I'm going to start making the body of this beautiful sweater, beautiful colors. I saw this combination on Pinterest and I thought it was really beautiful. You can make for boys as well. It's with and in blue. I saw it in blue. It's really cute too. So there's a few options there where you can make gray for your husband if you want. I think it's really cool combination. So let's go to the body, and then we'll put it all together after that. So for the body panel of this Centro Knitting Machine sweater for kids, I'm going to be making one back panel only, okay? And I'm gonna be showing you how wide it is now. Just so you guys know, if you need wider than that, you have to make 2 panels for each part, okay? Front and back. So I have, goes all the way to, it's 36 centimeters, but stretches all the way to around 39. Or in inches, we have 13.5 inches. Okay, and for the length, I made a little more rows than the sleeve, so it has 17 inches long, and I got that making 90 rows. Okay, so I made 90 rows, so 30 for each one of the colors, 30, 30, 30. And then now I'm going to make the front panel, okay? So this goes all the way to 10 years old. You can use one panel only, okay? If you are making for a 12, 14, 16 years old, and if you don't want the sweater to be stretched, you need to make 2 panels, okay? Let's get started with this panel. I'm using my Centro 48 now, okay? If you have your Adi 46, you can be using that too. So just be aware that's gonna be around an inch smaller than this panel here with the Centro 48, okay? That's why I like the 48 so much, because it makes bigger panel, wider panels. So I'm going to be casting on 45 stitches. That's the maximum number of stitches that I can cast on using the panel mode. So cast on 45 stitches. Okay, 45. I can't go over that because otherwise this one comes up at the end of this row here. It drops the stitch here, so that's why I always make 45. That's the maximum amount of stitches you can get without having troubles here on each time you start a row, okay? And now make 4 rows with this waste yarn. And then place the new yarn with a little tail so we can seam with the mattress stitch later. And then I'm going to be making 30 rows with this color of yarn. And guys, I have a course on my website, knittingmachinepatterns.com, that you can learn how to make panels with perfect edges, like this one. As you can see, the edges, even with the color changes, they're really nice and straight. There's no loose big loops or anything, so you can learn that with me on my website. And that way always work with panels. And I like working with panels because you use much less yarn to make everything, even blankets you can make with panels, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead, make 30 here, start my color changes, and then I'm gonna show you the color changes on the panel mode after this. And then I'm making 90 rows here, and then I'm gonna show you how I'm going to make the shoulders, because I always like to leave a little space for the shoulders on the top of the front panel only, just to make it easier for everyone. And so I'll be doing that next, okay? So just 30 rows of this. So at the end of row 30, I'm going to add the white here. And I didn't cut this yarn just over, otherwise I would just put this ball inside. You don't need to cut the yarn, really. I'm gonna leave a little longer tail, just in case I need this to seam. And then I'm gonna make 2 and 2 rows. So I'm making 2 with the white now. Let the yarn slide through your hands, only sliding. I'm not really making any tension. And then now I'm going to exchange colors this way. I'm gonna put the white inside and then start working with, if I had that strand there, I would just pull it up here and start working with it, but because I had to change, I'm just gonna put a new one and then make a knot later. And then I'm gonna make 2 rows with this one. Now, because I need 30 rows here in the middle, I'm going to exchange the color 15 times now, okay? And then finish with the white after. So here for the white, I made 32 because the last 2 rows exchange was white as well, okay? So get waste yarn and a tapestry needle ready after you finish this last row, because we're gonna need it. So we are going to, if you want to place a marker, I'm going to count 14 stitches. They are going to be for the shoulder, and then 14 stitches at the end. So make 14 now. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. So it should be needle number 14, okay? And then at the end of this, I'm going to remove this yarn and just make count 14 to this side, 14, just place a marker there so you know that's the last stitch for this part of this side of the shoulders. And then now I'm going to be making all these stitches in between them. They're gonna be for the neck cut, okay? So I'm going to be making them without the yarn until I reach this spot here. Okay, and then you can bind them off with just waste yarn, just to secure them, make sure they're not gonna open or anything like that, otherwise you have to remake it after, which is a pain in the ass. I need to be careful here, so I'm going to just drop this in the middle. And then now to start making these stitches from here, I'll need another piece of yarn. I'm going to just use the other side of the yarn that I'm using at the moment. But if you get confused, just cut 2 balls of yarn and then just use separate, just so you don't make knots or anything. Okay, and then I'm going to place the yarn here after this last needle in front of the first needle that has the marker, okay? Make sure all the stitches are down there. And then you can put this yarn from the other side away. And then here I can just cast off the remaining stitches because they are released already. And if you can just leave this needle here to cast off the stitches later of the shoulders. So what I'm doing now is that I'm gonna be working only one side of the shoulders. I'm gonna show you here, and the other side after I'm going to be making the same thing, okay? I just think it's easier than exchanging yarn all the time. You can first work one side, count the number of rows, and make the exact number of rows on the other side as well. So I'm making one, then make your way back for 2. Okay, if you think you need more rows for the shoulder, I think this is enough for a kid because they don't have as big a shoulder as big as an adult. And for me, I normally make 30 rows. So if you think your boy or girl needs a wider space for the head, just make sure you make a few more rows here, not many, okay? Around 14, 15 should be enough. And then on both sides, okay? So now I'm going to just go ahead. So I made my 10 rows here. This is all secured. I'm now gonna go to the other side where I left the other yarn tail. I'm going to place the yarn inside, and then I'm going to make an extra 9 rows because remember we made the first one on the beginning here, okay? So I finished my 10 rows here as well. Then I'm just gonna put the yarn inside here. Okay, make sure this yarn doesn't get tangled. And then you can go to the other side, release the stitches from all the needles, okay? Let's just make one by one so you guys don't get confused. Okay, I'm going to use that same tail that I used. You can use a new one if you prefer. And just bind off here. I don't know for you guys, but the less tails that I have to work with, the better, I think, because otherwise it's a mess of tails at the end. It's a tail mess. Okay guys, so I have my first shoulder here, and now going to any side really, just release the stitches from the other side. And I can also cut this tail of the other side. Just leave enough tail so you can seam these stitches on the shoulder. You don't need much, around 50 centimeters. So you can just work with this on the other side. And the same for here, you can cut this yarn. Just leave another tail to seam later. Release these stitches. And then just cast them off. I like to cast off stitches this way because it makes it much easier to seam them later with the whatever stitch you are seaming. So normally you're gonna graft stitch. Okay, so let me show you guys. And again, I have all the sizes calculated in the pattern to make it easier for you guys. If you want, you can also steam right now before you close before you put all the pieces together. Okay, so what's gonna happen, this here, it's gonna go around and to the back. And because we are going to make a seamless seaming here, it's not gonna really show. And I like to do this way because it just makes our life easier. Don't have to be decreasing on both sides, okay? But you could have done this on the other side as well. I just prefer to make a flat square on the back. So this is what we have now, the two squares. They're gonna join perfectly here, and with the mattress stitch we have to, make sure that this is gonna happen. So, just place markers here if you want before you seam it. And then we have the two sleeves that I'm going to do later, okay? First we are going to make the bottom part of it, which I'm gonna be making the same ribbing, but I won't be decreasing that much, okay? So I'm gonna show you how to put these together first. That's the first thing I do, it's just seam them together, and then we start with either the top or the bottom ribbing, and that's the last thing we do. Put both parts one in front of the other with both right sides facing out. And then for the sleeves, as you can see, they fit only on the white part, so we are gonna be seaming with the mattress stitch just all the way to this second row here, and then we're going to leave the rest of the space for the sleeve. Okay, I'm using that yarn tails that I left. If you didn't leave any, just make a knot on the bottom, okay? And then I'm going to just pass through this way, so it's on the other side. And then I'm going to go straight to the other side. So I'm going to be seaming here, either on this stitch here, which I think I'm gonna probably do because I need the more width that I can on this size. But you could as well just do it here. Okay, so this is the part of the stitch that I'm going to be using to mattress stitch. And I'm going to for like 2 rows at a time, okay? And then here on the other side, I'm going to go on this first and second row as well. Leave this a little open, you can pull it later, it's just make it easier for you to see the next stitch you have to grab here, okay? And then here. And then here. And then once you finish, just pull it. And that's the way it's gonna look like. I like to grab this way. Sometimes it makes your life easier just to see the stitches a little better. Okay, just make sure that when you get to this place here, you're gonna be in the same position for both of these ones, even though you can get away with it maybe, because we are going to start using a new yarn to metri stitch the remaining. So I'm going to metri stitch this side all the way to this part here, and then I'm going to join the other side as well, and then I'm gonna quickly show you how I'm gonna do with the shoulders. So now for the stripes, here is the trick. On one, you go on the beginning, on the end of, in between both stripes on one side, and on the other side you're gonna make the two. Just pull it too much. And on the other side you're gonna make through. Two different colors. And that way they're gonna match perfectly. Okay. So I'm gonna be using the top yarn tail to do that. And then in this first stitch here, I'm going to pull this black a little. I'm going to put the needle this way. And then on the other side, going to also pull this yarn a little. And then on the other side, I'm going to put this way and then this way, and then remove this. And then the same here, going to do this and this. And then just pull it tight. And just repeat the same on the other side. Here and here. It looks weird on the beginning, but then it gets shape at the end. And then you grab this loop from before and this next loop here. If you want to leave the waste yarn in so you can see the stitches better, it's another solution as well, because it can get confusing. And then this one here and this one here, the loops, they have to be side by side. So do that until you reach the last stitch of the shoulder. Okay, so I'm going to seam on this side here, and then I'm going to seam this side here. I'm going to make knots and hide all these tails here so they are not on the way as well. And as well with the inside tails that you guys have left, just make knots and hide them. And then we can go to our next step. So guys, here's the jumper after I seamed the shoulders. As you can see, it's very seamless, this type of stitch. And here is the side. And now I'm going to make the ribbing on the bottom. So I'm gonna quickly show you guys how. The ribbing is gonna be exactly the same that I made on the cuffs. So I'm going to put the yarn through here, through any of the loops, okay? It doesn't really matter. And then I'm going to make a slip knot to begin here, pull it. And then these two next stitches here, because they're gonna be hidden behind the work, I'm going to be making them together with the first one. Only this time, okay? And then grab the next one. So grab the stitch, the loops this way because it's easier. And then just slip stitch in every single stitch. I'm going to be making this cuff exactly the same way that I did here. The ribbing on the bottom, exactly like I did on this cuff here. 3 or 4 rows, depending of how many rows you want for your ribbing to be, okay? 4, 5, maybe 6, okay? And if you think you need more length and you didn't make this long enough, you can even make a longer ribbing, you know, just to make it the right size for your child, okay? So here it is. That's how my ribbing looks like. I made only 3 rows of ribbing and I thought it was enough. Like, and if this ribbing starts to curl up this way, all you have to do is just a half double crochet row or a single crochet row underneath it to avoid the curling, okay? Now, this is our neck cut, how it looks like here. I'm going to start making this collar in one of the sides here on the knitted rows, the ones that are facing sideways. And just put the hook inside any of the holes here. And then I'm going to skip one here and then single crochet in the very next one. Skip one, single crochet. Skip one, single crochet. And then from these stitches that I have to bind off now, the front stitches and the back stitches as well, I'm going to simply slip stitch in each one of them. Just slip stitch. So on the sides I'm gonna single crochet, and here I'm going to slip stitch. And I'm going to do this all the way around to then make the first row, and then I'll come back with you. So for this, to finish this row of the neck here, I'm going to just slip stitch in that first stitch, and then I'm going to to chain 2 to start working this next row. And all I'm going to do here is 1 double crochet to each stitch I had underneath. Just double crochet all around it, and then repeat this same stitch here, okay, you made for the cuffs. I'm going to be doing exactly the same, but with one change that I decided to do, because this is for kids and it's white on the top, so I'm gonna be adding 2 rows with this color here, just to make the edge of this collar with this color here, okay, so it doesn't get that dirty. Other than that, I'm just repeating the same ribbing we did before. And so I'll just come back with you to show you how I added the sleeves. I actually already added this one just to see how it was going to look like, and that's the last thing I'm going to do. Now this is how the neck looks like. It might be a little too tight, so for the pattern I'm gonna do a little change. I'm going to leave 10 stitches only for the shoulders, so it opens up the space of the head a little bit, okay? It's 40 centimeters or 15 something inches. That's the diameter of this. So if you need extra, if you need it bigger, you just, when we made the neck cut, you leave 10 stitches on each side, so it's gonna open up this space a little more, okay? But other than that, it's pretty good, I think. I'm going to now add the sleeves here. And so to do that, I'm using the yarn tail that I left at the end of the sleeves, or you can use that yarn tail that you had here as well. And because I'm starting from there, I'm going straight to here. And I'm going to grab this first stitch and this second one, so I'm going to make 2 rows at a time. And then here, let's make sure you get rid of all this. I'm gonna go from this stitch to this stitch this way. And I'm gonna put it very close for you guys to see. And then here and here. If you need, just place a marker half of the way here, just so you can see it better. For me, I don't need it anymore. It pretty much works every time, what I'm doing here. From this loop to this loop. And then on the other side, always 2 rows. And then it's gonna look like this at the end. You can steam it if you don't like how thick it looks like at the end. If you steam, this is gonna go down a little, okay? So that's pretty much it. I'm just gonna finish it off and just show you guys how this looks like finished. So guys, this is our finished sweater made on a Centro knitting machine. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. I'm pretty happy about it. I think super cute. And let me know if you enjoyed this too. I'm going to leave down the description below the pattern if you guys want any other size, okay? I'm going to make from size 4 all the way to 10, okay? Just because 12, I think you're gonna need two panels, so I might make another tutorial for that, but this fits all the way to 10, okay? Because it stretches as well. So the pattern will be down the description below, and you also help my business if you purchase my pattern. It's not really expensive and it has all the sizes calculated for you guys there, okay? Again, I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Thank you for being here and subscribing to my channel, and I see you on the next tutorial.